Gonna be gluing in the pump shoe on this thing today, and if you guys are just here to see how to do that, I'm gonna leave a timestamp for that down in the comments section so you can get to that really easily. It's Josh here, and I am working on the GPRSHO. First thing I gotta do, test a few settings on the pump shoe to make sure I got it set up just perfectly before I glue the pump shoe in. Then once it's glued in, I'm gonna take it back out on the water and test it to see what kind of benefits are gained from doing that modification. I wanna get some testing done really bad, but so far it's been terrible conditions. But look at what we're looking at today. That is where we're going, just straight out ahead. Looks pretty dang smooth from out here, so pretty excited. Can't wait to get out there and give it a run. Look at the water, it's perfectly smooth out here today, and I'm really pumped and excited for this speed run. Can't wait to see what it does. Do the first run here in neutral. I've been idling around, warming it up for a little bit here. That is with my sponsons in my preferred spot, a little bit down, or down in the back, up in the front. I have the pump shoe trimmed down to 0.07 inch. But right now what I'm thinking is I'm gonna go into shore. I'll kind of do a turn into shore. And then I'm gonna switch the shims in my pump shoe to just one washer, see if that gives me any kind of difference on the speed. Let's kind of get a whole shot check here. What's really actually allowing us to whole shot is that rubber hose that I put in the pump shoe. It goes right between the pump shoe and the transom plate. And without any seal there, it just cavitates for days, like doing a huge burnout off the line. Oh, it feels good. I'm intimidated to turn at these kind of speeds. The most consistent turning was with the nose down. Any other setting, it was kind of nose up a little bit, and then once I scrubbed off enough speed, the nose would kind of bite in and turn, you know what I mean? So it was like turning not as good, and then when the front would bite, it would go. So it's best to just keep the nose down so it's constantly biting, so it's a more consistent feel for the turning. My heart is pounding. Now I'm going to be taking one washer out of the pump shoe. For that run there, I was running 2 washers, which had me set up at that perfect 0.07 of a gap for the pump shoe. Trying not to drop my bolts in the dirt. Now I'm going to remove 1 washer, so it will be at 0.12 of a gap. Let me just kind of show you what I am talking about here. First, I have to draw a jet ski. I'm talking about shimming the pump shoe, which sits right in about this area. It does not stick down like that. I'm just drawing it like that so we can visually see it. And the intake grate is about there. And so basically what I have done on this ski is there's a flat part on the hull on the bottom right about in this area, and I took a flat, long, straight edge. I used a level, and I put it up tight against that flat spot, and then measured the gap between my level and the pump shoe right there, where I made a little arrow. It's a very small gap, and the number that you're looking for is 0.07. That is what I found on the internet from other people who have done this, say that that's about where you want it, and that's where you'll get your best setting. All right, so let's just do an expanded view of the pump shoe. And we'll call this square box the pump shoe. It has the 4 bolts on it, and it has the 2 bolts where it connects to the intake grate. My cool drawing. But anyway, this is like the bottom view, looking at it from the bottom. And to achieve the measurement we want here of that 0.07, I had to stick 2 washers underneath where it bolts in. The 2 washers between the pump shoe and the hole, so they're sandwiched in there. That gives me the correct spec that I want to see when I measure this gap right here between my straight edge and the pump shoe, the correct measurement of 0.07. And that is what I tested in run 1, so we'll call it test 1. And now I'm removing 1 washer from each of these bolts. There's 6 bolts that have 2 washers, the main 4 for the pump shoe and the front 2 for the intake grate, because it's connected to the pump shoe. Otherwise I'd be bending the intake grate to bolt it back down. So for test 2, we are at the 0.12 inches from removing 1 washer from each, and the washers are 0.05 themselves. 0.05 for the washers. Yeah, good handwriting, right? All right, guys, I'm just tightening everything back down, pulled the washers out. I am running washers at the front of here so that everything sits nice and flat. I don't know if I talked about that before, but I had 2 washers up front here as well. So I took 1 out here, 1 out from there, there, and there. Obviously not here because that would mess everything up. We took like this much off. Before we were right at 0.07, so we're probably at 0.11. Is that right? 0.12. Jason's told me my math didn't really make sense to him, and I know it's kind of confusing since we're taking 0.05 off, that it would increase our gap, but you guys probably saw how I was measuring it before. We're measuring a gap on the bottom, which increased in size by removing the washer. And Jason's lurking.
Yeah, I'm lurking.
Okay, I've got my counters reset to 0, so if this is slower, we will see that. Counters on the GPS. Jason's out ripping on the SXR. We're probably going to do a video on that. That'll probably be at a separate video from this. But you can't see him ripping around a little bit on the thing. He's already told me it's the best SXR he's ever ridden, and he's ridden 3 of them. Back-to-back test since it's a bit more choppy right now, but then again, like I said before, in really light chop like this, it hasn't really mattered between like super light chop like this and it's perfectly smooth. I'm gonna go in a little closer to shore. It looks a bit more glass. I think my best speeds have been bow up, so we're gonna run that when we go into shore. go, guys. It's worth a half a mile per hour to have your pump set properly. Before this, I remember we had it, was at about a oh, there's a weird wave in the water right there. Before I shimmed the pump shoe, we were at 74 miles per hour. Then I did the shims, got us to the pump shoe shim to 0.07, and we ran 75. Just dropped it to, or increased it, dropped it, whatever you want to say, to a 0.11 or 0.12, excuse me. And you could see we ran half a mile per hour slower. I don't want to say this, but probably the best thing for me to do, put those washers back in and see if I can replicate what I had before, to double/triple check and make sure what I have is legitimate, accurate, repeatable, and correct. Test number 2 at the 0.12 of a gap on the flat edge to pump shoe came in at 74.5 miles per hour. Okay, everybody, got it reset to that 0.07. Just got the washers put back in that I took out. I actually added 5 gallons of fuel, so if it does hit 75 now, it truly is a better setting, because we got worse conditions and more weight. .6 with this setup. Earlier I got it to 75. Like, whatever, guys, good friggin' enough. So for test number 3, we went back to the 0.7 inch, which is the spec that I have found is supposed to be the best. We ended up running at 74.6. And you might say that's only barely better than test 2, but it was considerably more choppy, and it definitely had more gas in the tank. So just being faster than test 2 was good enough for me to say, you know what, this is the right spec. You know, these guys have tested with this before. I'm just going to go with it. That's good enough. We're going with the 0.07. All of my speed runs, I'm taking multiple runs in multiple directions, just in case my GPS is more accurate in one direction or another. And I'm testing all the different quick trim settings, so the trim on the handlebars, to see what's faster. And generally speaking, it has been with the bow up has been the faster settings. And that just gets more of the hull out of the water, so that's less drag in the water. So, I mean, that makes sense. I've got this thing all disassembled and ready to go. Got the pump shoe intake grate removed. Also have the jet pump removed so that I can see what's all going on inside, and also have the ride plate taken off. Here is my pump shoe. I'm getting ready to glue this thing in, you know, semi-permanently anyways. I'm gonna have to get some acetone and just get everything nice and clean. These surfaces here, back here, here, and the sides here are all going to get glued, and I believe we'll have a little bit here and here as well. Basically, this is going to seal up all the gaps that these things have. These GPRs are really bad. If your seal is blown out here, gets terrible cavitation off the bottom, but the top speed is still okay once you get going. I found that I could use this rubber hose on mine, and it worked pretty well. I did have to shim my shoe down a little bit, so I'm not saying this thick of a hose would work perfectly for everyone. It just worked for my particular setup, and I think all of them are going to be different, because depending on how your hole was, you know, manufactured, and manufacturing tolerances, how old it is, things of that nature are really going to affect where your pump shoe is sitting on there. But getting it glued in there is really going to be, I think, a huge step in the right direction. That way we'll be putting all the water through the pump, as opposed to having some being ejected into basically nowhere. So it's really going to seal up the pump good, and it should at least help with our cavitation. I'm also hoping that it will help with the top speed a little bit as well. But I'm gonna get everything cleaned up with some acetone here. Also gonna acetone inside the hole where it gets glued. So here's here's the hole, and you know, we're gonna put glue just on all the mating surfaces and really get this thing sealed up. I have the pump removed so that I can see the inside. So I can see the inside as well, because basically there's kind of a seam right there and there that I'll need to get at. I'm going to scrape this glue off. This is from where the original gasket was, and there's just a bit of it left here as well. I'm going to get all that taken off so that we can have good fresh silicone. This is where that rubber hose was, and yeah, without something here, these things are terrible. I have got the Loctite PL Marine Fast Cure Adhesive Sealant. This is not my #1 choice. Like, I'm really comfortable with, like, the 3M 5200 is extremely strong, but I wanted something not quite as hardcore as 5200. So I decided to give this a try. Obviously I could do 4200, but this one was readily available, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I tried to see what people online thought of it. Didn't really have much info on it, so I'll try it. If it sucks, I'll 52 it, because I do have a tube of that as well. For the messy part, let's have a foil seal in there. Just have to break that open like so. And now for this lovely, delightful part. Want to have a good, nice seal on this thing when I'm all done with it. And basically, the goal is to get good coverage on all of the areas and make sure that I don't have any gaps when I'm done. And also, it's very important that the surfaces are nice and clean, so this will get a good solid bond. Alright, I gotta get my shims on there. Fortunately, the glue is gonna hold them in place. But before I do that, let me show you. I filled in those voids up there and also did an extra layer right here, since that's the spot where it really likes to blow out. Now I'm going to go around, fill in any just gaps that I have left, you know, wipe everything down, get everything cleaned up. I've been just using a rag and some acetone to just try to clean everything up, and it has been quite a lot of work to do that. So after I went over it with my fingers to get it nice and smooth, I'm having to keep redoing it because I'm just wiping the area down, getting the excess off with the acetone, and then it gets a little bit lumpy again. So it may look kind of crappy to you, but I've been putting a lot of elbow grease into keeping the Loctite like 4200 equivalent, just keeping it from being absolutely everywhere. I could work on that for pretty much as long as I want, and it still probably wouldn't be perfect. So now I gotta wait a couple of days for that to dry at least, and we'll get to test it out. Perfect day for testing on the GPRSHO project. Got the pump shoe all glued in, and so we're gonna have to speed test that to see how it goes. Right, reset the speed app. All right, let's see what we got. 75.5, new PB, yeah! So that's gluing in the pump shoe, guys. And that has got us, let me think, and we ran 74.6 last time, so that got us 1 mile per hour. Now let's check out the whole shoddiness. Considerably more fuel in her. Pretty good. Almost feel like it goes better with the rubber piece though. Guys, I want to test another exit nozzle back to back. It was my hot setup before, and I want to see if it nets us anything here today. It's only a few bolts to put it on, so I'll give it a shot. The loading ramp's a little clogged right now, so let's not do that. I did end up eventually testing a different exit nozzle or steering nozzle, and it actually ended up being a little bit slower. And then I just went right back to what I had before, and that's the current setup. And I'm going to go over the current setup in just a minute here, but I want to say a few things about the whole new personal best top speed there of 75.5 is the fastest we have gone on this GPR SHO. Why that's a little bit better than the numbers are saying is that we did have a full tank of fuel when we did that 75.5 miles per hour. So I guess that's pretty good in a way. I think maybe with a little bit less fuel, we could maybe get to 76. I know we're moving up in very small increments, but I think it's important to take care of this fine-tuning stuff before we add a whole bunch of power. Handling-wise, it's been exactly the same ever since I got the scoop grate on it and set my sponsons up to where I like them and have my shims on the trim tabs. None of the shimming of the pump shoe or anything has had any effect on it handling-wise. It's all been the same. I'm gonna go over my setup on this thing. Got these sponsons set with the front of is up, back is down, and the center bolt is in the middle. You have to drill that out to get that to happen. But I really like that setup. 2mm shim on the trim tab. Have the pump set back 2 inches with a 2-inch spacer from a 1300R. Using a 155mm pump out of FX SHO that gives us the correct length drive shaft. This is 1200R, and from this back is all 1200R. One of the things I'm wanting to do next is custom ride plate, extend it a little bit. I know that you gain some miles per hour with one of those aftermarket ride plates, and it looks like one of the biggest differences is the extension, plus there's some difference in the center section as well. I got new videos on the mini aluminum jet boat coming soon, and those are going to be good. Keep it locked in here to Jetski Brothers, because you are not going to want to miss what happens next.